He's done this a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Have you got it on? Yes. Oh, okay, would you join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The study session is in order. We have guests this morning that would like to address the board. They'd asked us a couple study sessions ago. And that, what's your official name? Horizon?
Horizon Health EMS, or
Okay.
ambulance, whatever you prefer.
So the floor is yours, folks.
Thank you, gentlemen, first and foremost, for letting us have the opportunity to speak to you this morning. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jesse Lusader. I work full-time as a patrol officer with the Paris City Police Department. However, I'm also the manager of Horizon Health EMS. The reason we'd like to address you this morning, you've all probably seen us the last few study sessions and board meetings. So we thought today would be a good opportunity to present to you, generally speaking, of who we are, what we do, and what we're about. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a certified paramedic at a national registry level. I'm also certified in Ellenwood, Indiana. Have been a paramedic since 2014, and I've been involved in EMS for just about 10 years. To date, our ambulance service, we started on April the 17th of this year. We are a certified paramedic level ambulance service. We have 2 ambulance units that are certified at the advanced life support level, which in essence means paramedic level. As far as our staff is concerned, we have 26 staff members currently, variety of paramedics and emergency medical technicians. Among our staff members, a majority have extensive background in fire rescue, technical rescue, and dive training or water rescue. So far, since our go live date, if you will, of April 17th, we have had 400 plus calls for service. Amongst those calls is a combination of interfacility transfers from hospital to hospital and also private line service requests. We have a little 7-digit number people can call should they request our service. We also currently, months ago when we started, we engaged in an agreement with Northern Edgar County Ambulance Service, or CRISPN. So where in the event there is a mass influx of calls, or should there be an overflow, or they don't have an ambulance available, it is now written into the protocol of Edgar County 911 that we are the first response to go up to CRISPN and their jurisdiction should a call come in. We have mutual aid agreements with various departments in this immediate area. What the mutual aid agreement means by definition is similar to CRISPN. If there is that influx of calls and they can't handle their call volume and need additional assistance, then we will respond and help them in their territory. Those agreements that we have are with CRISPN, Kansas, Oakland, Clark County Ambulance. That includes the KZ Westfield area and Marshall, and also TransCare Ambulance Service out of Terre Haute, Indiana. Sorry. We're an affiliate of Carl Regional EMS, which is through Carl Hospital. What that means is every ambulance service is required to have a governing body, a body that oversees the training of the ambulance service, and they do a quality review of the calls that we run, the patient care that we provide. With Carl, we do conduct bi-monthly training with our staff, so paramedics and EMTs alike are able to keep sharp in their skills, and also review calls and particular scenarios that we may not have encountered for a certain period of time that we want to make sure we can handle appropriately should the situation arise. So that's just kind of a brief overview of who we are as an ambulance service. I felt some of you may have had some questions. You've been seeing us around in the room. So I wanted to give you just a brief summary of what we do, and then give you any of you the opportunity, if you have any questions for us, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Gentlemen, appreciate it, Jesse.
No problem. Thank you.
The staff
Mhm.
do they have dual roles? Like they're doing stuff in the hospital some too, and then when you get a call, then they can leave there and go?
Yes. So the role of every employee there, the hospital is a huge proponent of allowing people who are certified at a particular level to work within what we refer to as their scope of practice. So for instance, paramedics are allowed to initiate IVs, draw blood, take EKGs, administer medication, so on and so forth. Everything they can do in the field, they can also do in the facility. So generally when it's busy in the ER, and it does happen oftentimes, especially on the weekends, the staff will contact the EMS crew, they will come in to assist. And so yes, there is a dual role.
So you have full-time people, just their job is to run the ambulance?
Yes, just to clarify, first of all, I'm Samantha McCarty, I'm the Director of Emergency Services at Horizon Health, so I direct both the emergency department, the EMS staff, as well as all of the security officers within the hospital. Each specific department has their own specific role, but I also train all of them together in teamwork. So
Okay.
they're not, the EMS folks are not in the ED or in the hospital working at all, counted as staff, but they are an extra set of hands. Should the influx occur in the
Okay.
hospital, we can call them and ask them to come up and help.
And what are you doing up in the northern Edgar County? I mean, I know you're assisting them of some sort.
That's all it is, simply. As it used to be, they had one ambulance available to them during the daytime, and that is still the circumstance. They've got it such now where they have a full-time crew readily available to respond, at least during the daytime, but with that, generally, it's a basic life support level crew. So in the event, for instance, a chest pain, a possible stroke victim that might require a paramedic level intervention, we will either intercept with them on the way to the hospital, or we will automatically respond if they need assistance in providing that care.
I wasn't sure how you were doing that.
Yeah, simply just an assistance thing.
Okay.
You said currently two vehicles? Two
Yeah, and that is a fleet that we intend to expand here in the coming months, but that is what we have currently.
Any plans to kick Scott out of his office?
I don't think
Just let
so.
us know, give us some lead time.
No, we've actually outgrown the space completely around there, so probably looking at doing some different expansion in that, but Scott will stay where he is.
Far away from us is the goal. Is there a plan in place, as we move forward? What are your thoughts on expansion of personnel, if need be? Is there a market for that, or how do you see that going if the need were to arise?
We are always accepting applications for people that are certified at the EMT and paramedic level. With the 26 employees we have currently, in comparison to the 2 ambulances we have an adequate staff to support that. Certainly, as the need would arise, we will hire additional personnel to meet any needs that we need to meet in the future.
And I have a list of applicants that I've turned away at this point, just because we have more staff than what we actually can rotate through. I have told them that should the need arise, I pull my applicants from the people that have already submitted applications before I would advertise externally.
And those applications, is it a hodgepodge, or is it primarily paramedics, or more EMT heavy, or that?
I'm actually surprised. I have way more paramedics than I do EMTs.
Really?
The paramedics have jumped ship from a lot of different surrounding areas. And I think just the positive work environment, the emphasis on teamwork, and the overall customer service, that training that we put them through, I think that has spread like wildfire. And so a lot of them from other services are submitting applications. But yes, it is paramedic.
Is that the
heavy.
highest level on the ambulance service?
As far as pre-hospital care goes, yes, they do have pre-hospital registered nurses, but the scope of practice is identical, generally speaking, to that of a paramedic.
When you were listing agencies that you have agreements with to cover, I forget the term you used exactly. Did you list Edgar County Special Services or not?
We had reached out to them in
Okay.
terms of the agreement, however, we do not currently have one with them.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, we appreciate
You're
it.
obviously welcome to stay if you
Sure,
want
of
to
course.
glaze over it. We'll, we do appreciate you being here. The next order of business is public comment. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, committee. How about committee reports? Committees.
Depending on committee.
That obviously is you, Andy.
I guess I can start with that. We have a meeting with SmartWalk tomorrow. To see what, 10 o'clock in the morning. To see what, kind of the scope of what their plans are, what process they go through in order to do the energy efficiency audit. I did get a letter from, Augie got a letter from state's attorney, and it appears that we need to look into getting an engineering, architectural or engineering.
I saw the email.
Um,
It wasn't exactly clear what they wanted or
I
what
think
Mark thought we
almost-
should do.
Seems by,
Unless we have in-house expertise on something like this for energy conservation at all, we are required by law to have what our proposals, take a look at, 'em,
architect or
engineer
engineer.
to look at what we should be doing and make sure that we're approaching it in the correct way. And that would not include an engineer within either firms that bid,
Right.
because that would be a conflict of interest.
So basically, we have to have an independent PE sign off on whatever their
We're heading in the
proposal is
right direction.
before we do it.
So does that reset our footing as far as?
I didn't see it as doing that. Did you?
Now, I don't, Carl and I didn't get that impression, is that right, Carl, from?
Yeah. I just think from this point on, anything that we do contractually needs to have someone look over it.
And I suggested to Andy, and I don't know whether he's gonna have time, that if he could scoot up there
I'll try to get the
and talk to the state's attorney to make sure that we're not misinterpreting everything,
Okay.
that we don't have to reset. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't see it as that, and you're right, I'm gonna, today's my first opportunity, but I'm gonna get up and see if I can talk to Mark and see where he thinks, and then if what I'm thinking is the case, then we need to be looking at, I don't know where you find that expertise in Paris.
Oh, there's a few of them around.
well, and it,
Good.
Ori or the other gentleman may
May,
be able to give us
Some people to,
some folks out there.
Yeah, and there's nothing for that third party to do until Ori has his proposal together anyway, so I don't see where it's resetting this.
I guess I'm telling you, until we hear something, I haven't signed the proposal yet,
right.
Yeah.
okay?
Well, and there was something in the body of that email that it was like, you know, are we starting from scratch or something like that?
I think that's what we need clarification.
Right.
Hopefully that's not the case, but
Yes.
obviously before we sign. or
But
vote.
we obviously want to do it the right way.
Well, I don't see that it's gonna hurt to talk to Ori tomorrow, do you?
No.
I mean, we haven't signed anything yet.
And he may shed some light on it also.
Okay,
Okay?
that's what,
Yeah, I think you gotta be fair and tell me what's needs to be done.
I'm just glad we had that kind of input. That's why we run
Right.
things by the state's attorney before we do them.
so, 10
So
o'clock.
what are you discussing with Ori?
He's gonna tell us what the scope of the entire project is going to entail. I may wanna get with department heads, there was a small thing in what he sent me that talked like he may want to put some kind of energy sensors of some sort out there that monitor what energy usage is. I don't know whether it's lighting, I don't think he got specific, but he said put some monitors out to see where high usage energy places are in some of our buildings, so he's gonna discuss that tomorrow, but we may wanna go to some places tomorrow, so we may be up to the jail. I was gonna tell Augie this morning, but he's busy. I think he's gonna do it for 2 days, the 6th and the 7th. Augie said he would be really busy tomorrow, so we might look at the morning of the 7th to go
I'd
out.
still hound him.
Well, our energy usage is still gonna be higher at the courthouse tomorrow than normal.
Yeah, that's true. He'll be home late at night tomorrow.
And we've discussed But don't we also want to approach Ari about outside of the energy audit while they are in there doing it? What it would cost to get a proposal on potentially changing the elevator?
Yeah,
Just so we know, I mean, you know, we need to know what it would cost. If we're
Right.
even gonna think about it and,
That is on the agenda. We have a preliminary, the board to authorize staff to seek a preliminary engineering
right,
report on the possible replacement and/or
relocation.
relocation of the elevator.
okay. Yeah, that's true, I guess we would have to have a,
Well, we can do it however you want. I
right,
just
but
wanted
we have
get
to
it
approve
on
the
there.
money to
Well-
pay an engineer to do that, sure.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay, you're done?
Yep.
Sir?
I stopped at the animal shelter last week, talked to Andrew, the new cages are about done.
Cool.
Also, there was a donation of some type of bones or something at Rural King. She said she had like 10,000. She didn't know what she's gonna do with all of them, but I guess it won't go to waste.
10,000
She said a
bones.
bunch.
Where are you storing them?
Well, Can
You use them to
can
shingle
them
the
in
roof?
jail, maybe to chew on or something.
Yeah, get some,
No, she said we had a lot of them, so.
One lunch a week?
yeah,
No, than that.
one of them bones, a cup of hot water makes them stew.
Yeah, right, yeah.
John?
Everybody wants more drainage ditches.
Of course they do.
Sure do. Well, that comes up the
This
vote,
time of
and I
the year.
led my voting up to pay Big James.
Geez, you don't wanna, we'll have all kinds of money left. if
Well,
it was
So
up
we
to
tell
you.
him every morning we
He's
see
just
him,
a lawyer.
yeah.
Carl, do you have anything on any?
For the sheriff, my wife was reading on social media yesterday, something about this live scan. What's the deal with that?
That's our fingerprint machine.
Well, I know what it is, but I mean, some of these people might not understand, but about the funding for it, a grant and,
Well, the funding, we come out of our, like our commissary money, we can use stuff like that for it.
okay,
It's, the live scan is the fingerprint machine where we, you know, instead of doing the old deal with roll ink on your fingers and put it on the paper, you hold it over, you got a glass screen, you roll it, it copies it, then it automatically gets sent to Springfield, we get a copy. Our machine's like a 2002 model, it's, you know, it's a dinosaur. That, you know, big machine this big, and we got a printer that's outdated and it just, you know, you just can't keep stuff running anymore, and the cost of repairs is exceeds about half the cost of replacement. So, you know, we searched around, we can get, they basically got it boiled down to a small laptop anymore with just a small tablet with the screen on it. Not only that, it makes it portable, like people come in for fingerprints for a job or concealed carry thing. Instead of having to bring everybody back through the jail, we can just have it on a little cart, we can roll it up front, we can do them right there in the entryway instead of having to have everybody in and out of the jail. It's about a $16,000 piece of equipment. We got a grant last week from Edgar Electric, Interstar, I guess. Them and some of their partners put out a $10,000 grant every year. Whoever was supposed to get it failed to submit the proper paperwork. So they had this 10,000 just sitting there, so they called us, said, have we got anything we can put part of it to? And I said, yeah. So Edgar County got 5,000 and Clark County got 5,000. So, you know, the report we sent to them was to put it towards this live scan and, you know, get it down to about $10,000 out of our money. So,
yeah, I knew the Interstar was involved, but I didn't know whether that was like a loan or whether it was a grant or
no
what.
cost at all, just show up for a picture and
Okay. The Northern Edgar County Ambulance, I know you sent a letter out to their chairman, and so we need to hear back from them.
Their next meeting's coming up. and
Okay.
I've been asked to go to it.
Okay.
If they would like to, I'll make it available, anybody that wants to go to it. But
Mhm.
we've also got a letter being prepared, it'll go, once the election is over, it'll go out to the other two areas, the Brockton area and then Kansas, which will, obviously say just a little bit different.
Right.
So we have notified all of the areas that could wish to be included in a expanded district, special district.
So here a while back, we were told we couldn't do it, but now
We can't,
we can expand the special
we can.
service if these other,
if we need
Areas.
to,
yeah,
yes. Yes, sir.
if there's a interest in it.
Right.
Basically mean we can pass a tax or something to fund it.
They can levy.
They
The-
can levy, okay.
Well, we actually levy it,
Okay.
okay? It'll be expanded levy based on the system in the law, okay?
But it just means we're gonna have to rewrite the contract to
Right,
allow for future expansion,
Yeah.
which I was
Right.
looking at and seems pretty simple.
Contract needs to be rewritten
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
right, and
Take that
as
one
far
more,
as
yeah.
that's concerned,
Yeah, take the 7 out, you're good.
Well, they shall and may.
we're preparing a letter of intent for the board to act upon in December, at the December meeting, to notify the current ambulance service about our, leave it loose, so whatever we're gonna do, we can do, but to trip that trigger that we had to do prior to 30 days, but remember, we all discussed that it would be better to do it now and have plenty of notice. And as that relates to, we talked to the state's attorney, and we do have that 100 and some thousand to, if we wanna prepare, have somebody help us to prepare that, we can use that money to do that, okay? We have 100,000 that's been sitting ever since you and I, Carl, and beyond, in a fund for the ambulance service as an emergency fund. It was money that was collected many years ago, and it's just sitting there. We can't use it for anything else, but if somebody failed or there was an issue or some, it's kind of a backup.
Mhm.
So we can use those funds if we need to have somebody help us draw up a new contract that has some, abilities that we may not have in-house, okay? So I did discuss that with
The Rise Mass Transit money still somewhere,
that
And they
issue
settled that.
was thrown out of court,
yeah, that's why I read something about that.
I can't remember what
Not
day
that
it was,
long
it was
ago.
about 2 weeks ago, they have 60 days to refile, but only on new issues because the contract, the judge ruled that there was no contract
Right.
between us or anybody else with the old system.
So eventually you may get the 150 for the county.
It's already with us,
Okay,
we already have it.
we haven't spent it, we still have
We
it.
didn't have to
No,
give it back.
it is in the general fund,
Okay,
okay?
So back on the ambulance, though, so probably next month or two, we need to hear from these
Right.
areas so we can kind of plan on how we need to proceed.
Absolutely.
Well, that or, it's a 5-year contract. If we have it written, so 3 years from now, Northern says, hey, we want to,
Oh, yeah.
we want to come in, we have our paperwork already lined up and say, okay, fine, we gotta do this and this, and we're not redoing the contract, so.
I'm kind of racking my brain here. What would be the steps to find someone to consult on something like that? I feel like this is something that's it's kind of a niche that might be hard to find around here. I mean,
I
it
guess.
sounds all well and good, I just don't know how we do it.
Well, would you go to, what other, we're the only one, aren't we? I mean, what other agreements do other counties have?
Well, we do have the agreement, didn't Augie send out between Vermillion County, Indiana? I mean, you could reach out to some of these other areas that have the ambulance service and find out if there is somebody they've used. Additionally, I'm sure that if we ask the ambulance services around, there must be some national organization that they belong to that we could call up their organization and find out if there are consultants. There have to be consultants that help hospitals and other places to
You
do
didn't
that.
start yours, right? What'd you do to start yours?
There's the National Association of EMT, so it's in a EMT, they have legal consultants, there's different types, obviously we're a hospital-based ambulance service, hospital-owned, so that is, paid differently through the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services rather than a privately owned business. If I were, I mean, just speaking off cuff, if I were you, I would call neighboring counties. I have spoke to the county boards and the county chairmen, county commissioners in neighboring counties, and a lot of their contracts are similar but have different components. One thing that Charleston does, which is in Coles County, theirs is a fire department owned ambulance service, but there's tax-based. Taxpayers pay for the ambulance service above and beyond the fire protection.
Right.
But taxpayers get reduced rates when they ride in the ambulance over and above, a specific amount, which that's unusual and common, or unusual for the area. That's not in all areas. Mattoon, different, same county, just different. They have 3 different contracts, but then their county oversees the whole entire thing, and they regulate how the calls are dispatched. Champaign County, obviously much bigger county, a lot more privatized ambulance services, but still oversees by the county. I would, if you have some contacts at your local county board, I would start with there and see what the Illinois counties are. I would steer you clear of venturing into Indiana because their EMS laws are different than Illinois' EMS laws.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, take the medical side out, any attorney that does a lot of municipal contracts.
Well, for us to decide though as a lay board whether we want 5 or 6 ambulances, I mean, how do we determine that? I mean, I'm just using that may
Right.
not be.
Right.
I mean, right at this point, we require 2.
I read that, I think it's 2.
I don't think that you would require the number of ambulances
We do in
more
our
than you would require the response time of an ambulance.
Okay.
Because then that puts that back into the on the plate of the ambulance service. If you say that you don't want anyone who is suffering in the county to wait for an ambulance longer than 15 minutes, then that changes my business model. Whereas if you say 45 minutes is okay, that means something completely different to my business model. Does that make sense? It's not necessarily you guys directing a number, but I would say more a time.
We have a minimum, and then the time too.
Gotcha.
Okay?
And that's where I was looking through the contract, and I don't know, I'm the same boat as everybody else here. But if down the road we did add Northern Edgar County, they decided to merge in, then is our minimum sufficient? I don't know.
And that is again what those mutual aid agreements are for. Whereas I may have 2, if 2 is not sufficient for my volume, I have mutual aid agreements. I can call Kansas or Oakland or Marshall and say, I need some added.
Well, then you get into satellite facilities and everything else. So,
Kinda like the rest
So
of
we
them.
just did, or required a response time, right?
we have a minimum on units, and then we have response time, I believe, don't we? You
I
guys
don't
read
think
it?
there's response time.
Is there?
I don't remember it.
I don't think there's a response to that.
But that's something
Yeah.
you
Should
should
be.
Yeah.
look at.
Who determines? I mean, we
contract
determine that,
does.
But, huh?
The contract
The
does.
contract does, but then who determines the nuts and bolts? Who do you call then? Once you get there?
Well,
It's
How's
up
that
to
determined?
911.
How are you planning to that? Right, how are
Right,
you-
how are you, what's the plan for that? How is,
Well, that's why hopefully the people that are bidding and successful, that they're able to take what you're asking and convert it into the correct way to service the health needs of our communities.
And I'm a little nervous with the concept of bidding, because we have X amount of dollars that we levy for ambulance service.
We could vary that.
We can vary that, but, in all fairness, the more accurate financial comparison is the price of the service to the consumer. If we save $10,000 as a county, but everybody's ambulance bill goes up,
You don't have that option.
We
You
also
don't
have
have an option.
the whole,
you know,
The
but,
option is what type of insurance you have, there's Medicare, Medicaid.
No, that
That's
isn't
our
true.
bill.
The ambulance company gets to set their price
Okay.
for their load fee is what that's called. And then there's also a set price for a per mile of
But you're
transport.
depending on your insurance and Medicare or Medicaid to pay some of the bill, right?
That
There's
figures in
contractual
their
obligation.
formula.
Okay.
yeah,
What we have done, the last time we bid, and we had to throw it out because we didn't read, was we were looking at how much the taxpayers were gonna pay. We set up the parameters, in other words, you gotta have this, you know, your facilities, and then we said, okay, how much are you gonna need a year from us to operate this system? And the current system, I did whatever they were getting at the time, and some of the other services, including the one from Indiana, said, well, we only need this much this year, this much this year, so we could vary the levy, and there was actually a savings on the levy. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's how they did it, okay?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like this is a two-pronged consultation, right?
Right.
So one is the healthcare providers might give us some insight into the industry itself, and one, you know, a municipal lawyer to actually help us with the contractual pieces and things like that.
So if you lose money when you make a run, in certain cases,
Of course.
yeah, okay.
In certain cases, I'm sure.
If it's Medicaid, you may lose more than what if it's Medicare or private insurance, right?
Well, that's a piece of the questions for the lawyer is how much transparency can we request? Because we've run into that previously, you know, before, you know, and as you have negotiations and talking about what the county is shelling out, you know, I sat here probably one of my first meetings and I said, well, what are the other numbers? And they said, well, we don't have to show you that. Okay. So, I mean, that's all part of it, right? So, you know,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying one way is right or the other, but that's all part of our calculus, is that we sit down and try to figure that out.
That's not, they shouldn't have to release that anyway, right?
oh, I think they should most definitely have to.
Well,
release
You know,
that.
they may
We
not
can't
have to,
make
but
the
they may,
decision.
if they're competing
Right,
against
that's
someone
what I'm
else,
saying, yeah.
and one person is saying, here's
But
the
they don't
books,
have-
here's what our
They
costs
don't
are,
have to,
they don't,
right?
but that may help their
We don't have
cause.
to.
Yeah, we don't have to select those,
Right.
that person either, so.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know all the legalities there, but again, why, but you could use two different consultants or need to.
Yeah, I don't either, I'm just saying we need to look at the cost to the consumers as well as the cost to
Yeah,
us.
I agree.
absolutely.
So, and you know, the best way to do that is what we're trying to figure out.
And, I mean, let's say on a hypothetical that Northern Edgar County says, hey, we would like to have that service, you know, but we, you know, part of that is, you know, in certain parts of the county, if there's not a levy that goes with it, their pricing may vary because of the cost to the service. So, I mean, that's all part of that, you know, overall picture as well.
One of my concerns with this, and you said you contacted Kansas? or s-
No, I'm contacting Kansas and Brockton. The
Okay.
letters have not gone out yet. Kansas verbally has told me they are not
They are
interested.
not interested, so you don't even, no,
But I'm still gonna send them a letter.
okay.
Because we want something on file that we
This has gotta
have.
move pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, because they've
That's
gotta
why
have
we're
X amount
early.
of days to.
Yeah, it's gonna take probably 90 days for everything to get set up.
And then we've gotta notify 30 days before the end of the
Right,
contract.
and that's why we're gonna do that next month.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean the letter's not gonna say we're gonna bid, we're not gonna bid. It's just saying that
It's a
we're,
preparatory, yeah.
Right.
And
So you gotta let them know, okay. that's-
yeah, absolutely.
so we've still got a little while before we're actually putting out, here's what we're requesting. When you
About
bid,
6,
you're
7
bidding
months.
this, you know, this is the piece. Have you got any response at all? Either
From-
verbal or written from, Julian?
No. I've talked to certain members up there. Some think yes, some think no.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
I don't think we can count on them making a decision before we have to make a decision.
Well, I guess,
Oh, yeah, they're talking about making a decision by December.
Okay.
so what is your next step, Jeff? What do you think, what's the next piece of this?
Well, I would like to get, the next piece is to notify our current provider, okay? Oh,
Try,
the
I
two
guess
letters,
with,
and then I'd like to get the state's attorney in here, which I talked to him about, to sort some of these things out about what we can do and what we can't do.
yeah.
And then, I think we need to start collecting, other agreements within Illinois, and I appreciate your suggestion about that, in the immediate area, and start looking at those contracts, and then rather quickly, so we can determine whether we need more help than that. Is that right?
Right.
Unless you'd like us to do something.
You're right on, I'm sorry, I guess I wasn't specific, as far as our friends to the north, we sent the letter out, you're expecting them to come back to us with something, hey, we don't know.
In the
or
next
whatever.
week or two.
Setting a meeting as the next step after that?
Well, they have regular meetings,
Okay,
and then if they say yes, then Augie is gonna have to meet with them and go over everything, and the state's attorney, well, they're gonna have to hire
Process.
counsel, the process. I mean, everybody, every eligible voter, they've got to come up with their area, they have to identify the area. And it might be a township, or several townships, then they've got to notify everybody in that township by mail.
Is that by
What-
mail?
Mhm.
Okay, and then they have a public hearing.
They have a public hearing within well, we have to pass an ordinance too.
I was gonna say.
Based
how
on-
I'm
fast
thinking
are
this
we
is
in this
real.
process?
That's
They've
real-
gotta tell us the
God, this
area,
is by March,
then we've gotta,
February. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Then we've gotta pass an ordinance saying, delineating out the area. Then the letters have to go out to everybody that votes or owns land in that area.
So other than a catalyst and passing an ordinance, we're pretty passive in that process.
Yes.
We're not- okay.
Yeah, we're not the ones deciding.
As far
And
as-
if 50% of if they get a petition out, then over 50% of the people, voters, eligible voters and landowners in that area say, no, we don't want it, it's done.
51%.
Yeah, 51. And you're done, you can't broach the issue, I think, what is it, 2 years? Whatever it says in the law.
Okay. So the levy can be immediately,
Well, of
how's
course,
that work?
well, we can't do anything about a levy for over a year.
That's what, okay, so even though they decide they want it, it's gonna be a year before they can get any money for it, basically.
That's correct. It'll be, say they did it this spring, it would be 19 tax year, receivable in 20. Okay?
I would take an annual contract, because they won't be getting any money this year.
By the way.
By the way, yeah.
Well, and, for example, up there, I understand that they have enough to keep going for a set period of time. Dick says about 2 years. So it may be that the ambulance service wouldn't actually start, if everything went well in that particular area, until January 1st of 20. Okay?
That'll affect the contract then.
Well, that's,
Whether you do it for, whether you do a short-term contract until you,
Well, and that's, we
or
talked
you do
about
a
that.
contract that escalates, say, okay,
Right.
then this year, then you will be responsible also for northern Edgar County. They will,
That'd be fairly easy to do.
or given the townships we have out, and I mean,
We currently
who
have
knows,
7.
yeah, Kansas may change their mind down the road. I think what we need to do, regardless of what Northern does on this go-around, if we're gonna do a 5-year contract, we have to have some language in it that if other townships come in, we will increase the levy proportionately in their townships, and that they are coming in under the agreement.
You would place a levy on the townships, right?
Yeah, well,
There's no
you know,
levy
as the
it
contract
exists.
is now, we have written for the 7 townships for the
Right,
levied X amount of dollars.
right.
Our contract needs to have something in it that if more townships decide to come in, you will be responsible for them at the same levy rate as, or, you know, some wording along that line, just so we're not, so if we sign a 5-year agreement and the township decides to change, we have a way to bring them in. And the ambulance service is obliged to take them.
Well, that's clear as mud.
Right, that's difficult.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be that, no, it's not
Yeah,
that
it is, all of a
complicated.
sudden you need another, okay, now we need 2 more ambulances.
Yeah.
And we need more staff, and we need more, yeah, that's,
Right.
Well, and do you want, you know, even up there, they go, well, will there be a satellite facility up in Chrisman?
Right.
Because if we go 15 minutes, that's not gonna happen
No,
up there.
that was Rescue One's problem. when
I'm
they
just,
did-
I'm just saying hypothetically.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they
that's
do have
why we have it laid out in the contract and the business owners make those, you know, because it doesn't make any sense to lowball it and then, you know, be
Not be
unable
able
to
to-
meet your
right.
contractual obligations, so.
We want, whatever, we want a stable ambulance service. And for quite a few years ago, what was that, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have a stable ambulance service. We need one that's stable and meets the needs of our communities. That's what we're all aiming for, at the most economical price that we can come up with.
That's all.
Carl, thank you.
Yeah, geez, Carl.
Thanks a lot, Carl.
Loaded one.
No, these things gotta be talked about.
Be talking about it, it's got, we gotta get things.
It seems like everything's got to, it's got to be quick, you know, 'cause
Blood?
I'm already-
We
I'm
can
already
quit.
confused. No,
Just
put your head between your knees, it'll be okay. Barry, I should say, Hanson submitted our 2 federal, 100% federally funded requests to that board, so that piece is done. Other than that, no updates.
Yeah, and one of them is lighting and electronic stuff, and the other one is expansion of the taxiways, correct?
Yes, so, yeah, I covered that last time, but.
Okay, I just,
Yeah. And then, what is it? It's coming up this week,
9th,
the 9th.
yeah, I've
okay.
got that on the 9th. You know, bid openings at, or I'm sorry, the bids are due in at 10 a.m. and Barry said he'd let us know shortly after that where we sat. We have had 6 bidders that have asked to be qualified, which is kinda nice. You don't want, what?
Like literally as you're talking, Hanson sent this, so.
I asked him to send it to you. We had a conversation. I
Just as a
can't
reminder, the West Apron Fuel Project bids this Friday morning. It will be electronic bids submitted directly to IDOT after 10. I will get an email notification with bid results. There you
And then the next bidding event, well, that will be awarded sometime the first of the year. The next bidding event is in January on the second project that we already have approved in the funnel, okay?
But we don't open and approve them, IDOT does.
That's correct. Those are all IDOT handled deals. Okay?
It's all new to me. I'm excited actually getting this far in the process.
Yeah, we're cutting new ground here.
Exciting.
All right, you got your agendas, but let's go to the levy first. Remember that we have to lay over and pass a simple resolution that we're going to lay over the levy and the annual budget and appropriation ordinance over for 15 to 20 days, I can't remember. That's why we have a second meeting in January that we come out on the 28th. And we actually approved the levy and I gave that out to everybody. So,
It's buried in my paper someplace, I remember.
I didn't hand this one out. All the things.
no, you did not. You got it the last meeting, I handed that out.
So there it is. Okay.
So, it's a 2.78
7/8.
increase. I went through all of that. No, I pretty much got it memorized. I guess I'm just asking at this point if there's general agreement to having that advertised, if that's what we're gonna do and head out.
So that.
You have extra copy? I never did get a copy of that.
It's in your email, Carl.
Be nice.
So,
just kidding.
the 278, that was what it was previously, no changes with all the other things that were kind of.
No, that's where it's been.
Okay.
That's where it's been.
So we're reducing social security and what else?
IMRF,
Just those two?
I don't have it, somebody took mine.
Very good news.
We're saving money
To
on
my email.
paper this year. Let's see. Tort immunity is going down by 25 grand. County retirement's going down by 25 grand. Social Security is going down by 15 grand, and everything's either staying the same or edging up a little, which you guys set back down to.
So, next year, are we gonna have to probably raise those back up to keep up with things? You
No,
feel
There's
like
still a
that?
cushion. There's enough money in those accounts to not only pay all the bills in 19, but there's enough money to pay all the bills because we're not gonna receive any money till July. So
Right.
we have to have money in those accounts to pay the bills from December 1st to July, the middle of July. And there's a little cushion there,
Okay.
yes.
So we don't anticipate next year to have to increase them, so, you know, even though we're reducing now, next year there's gonna be a,
No, this isn't
Maybe.
I don't operate like that, okay?
okay.
Still a fair question.
No,
Yeah.
no, it is, no, we don't, what
Right.
we want to make us look good
Right.
and then boomerang it back. No, we're not doing that.
Good. Okay.
Fair question, you're right.
Sorry, let me hear you for a second. So you're saying there's enough in those funds to cover us for a long period of time. It looks like the amount that we're reducing it is not by much, but you're implying that basically we're not using those. I mean, how did you take that number down? Am I saying that?
Well, you add up what we're gonna need for next year,
Yep.
all the bills.
Mhm.
And then you've gotta add into it what it takes to get us through to next July.
Right.
And then there's a cushion on top of that. And Don and I sit down and look at that. We may be able to take one or two of those funds down a little bit more next year.
Okay.
But I can't promise you that.
So, but you're basically, what you're budgeting is the maintenance as if, like with no cushion, right? That's the amount going in
It's,
there.
it's cash flow and,
Okay.
and what we need to cover our bills and not have to borrow money. Okay? So, then comes the budget. I think you all have a copy of that, I think we handed that out today. There has been a couple of changes, but I draw you to the very last page. And we're budgeting revenues of 4.5, and we're budgeting expenses at roughly 4.5, so the difference we have left that we haven't expended is $4,407, okay? So the expenditures are slightly greater, I'm sorry, the income is slightly greater than the expenditures. One of the things we did change, and Carl caught, was that we had budgeted payment to the hospital for building twice. We had $6,000 under an administrative section and also under the coroners. So we didn't subtract that from the budget, we just put that into contingency. So contingency went from 10 to 16,000.
That's what went for the county coroner.
Right. The other thing we hadn't done, and Dina hadn't put in her own increase, so we put that in there, so Dina's went up a little bit also. But everything else is relatively the same.
And this has worst case, for the county budget, deputy pay.
Well,
Right.
deputy pay is tenuous. If the sheriff should decide, and speaking out of turn, please correct me, Jeff. I think there's basically 8 people in there in the deputy fund. Roughly 7, well, that's too much. If there's only 7, if you decided to have a chief deputy, would that come out of administrative or would that come out of,
It's in the deputy budget this time.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
But what you're asking is depending on the contract, how it comes back, deputy salaries or
That's
worst
in, that's
case.
in there, aren't they?
Yeah.
what is,
The increase.
which I guess wasn't the question.
Oh,
That
I'm
was the
sorry,
issue.
I thought he was interpreting, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what's at issue is not the actual, I guess, pay raise, right?
Right.
So what we went to the arbitration about does not necessarily affect the budget?
No, because we're figuring you have to figure it that we're gonna lose,
That's what I was asking.
Right.
Yeah.
That was worst
Okay.
case for us.
all right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have
Trash.
to figure it's gonna lose.
What's the delta on that? You know, if we win?
You mean how much money?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Okay.
because I didn't figure it, Jeff did.
What's the, it's on the first page, can you go over the supplemental sales tax and what that difference is, why that is the way it is? Explain
Okay,
that.
supplemental, we combine sales tax and supplemental together because that's the way they come. And there's certain things, certain categories of sales tax and supplemental sales tax, which I'm not sure I totally understand, but that comes as one and we've been splitting it. So it just made sense just to put it together.
So we got a $40,000 reduction in our money in. from
Right,
sales
and
tax
we're
this year.
trying to explore, our sales tax has been going down, down, down. And we're not sure exactly why. And Don and I have been trying to make contact with the state, which is difficult, to figure out why our share of sales tax keeps shrinking.
Online shopping.
Could be, but it has, and we're trying to identify that. So,
Okay.
does that answer your question?
I send mine in every month.
So,
So-
Make more if you had
Prime rib.
ribs.
I know I've asked this before, Jeff, but
We'll
the,
get sometime, it's all a party.
is our
You have
catch-up
to let me
amount
know, but you let me know.
towards the bonding
I don't
in
do
here, or how do you have that budget, or where's that at, so I can?
it's on page 3.
Mason.
The last item, well, it's
I got it.
transfer, okay.
And so, this is back to our original amount, what we were supposed to.
36 is our original.
We'll have it again.
And I think we're still probably,
Sometime during the holiday.
still a little bit in the hole
I'll let you know.
on that.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 160 grand, I'm guessing.
Just so I'm clear, we are in the hole from where we should be with that 36.
That's
annual
correct,
investment.
correct, yes.
Do we
What,
have-
Carl, do you think I'm too high?
No, no. And when do we, I mean, we're,
22,
22 is when the city quits and it falls on us.
21 or 22, yeah, we've got a couple years.
Okay.
And I assume like last year, any excess we have at the end of the year, we'll try to roll into that. And
Well,
We have a mitigation, right, for that, kind of, we're expecting.
possible, yes. The, what I was gonna tell you, our current budget is showing that we'll probably have about 70 grand left
Mhm.
that we haven't expended, so we'll probably take 36 to 50 grand of that and throw it into the fund. We'll issue a check to that fund here in a couple of weeks.
That's what we did last year.
Yeah. We'll just see, as we get a little closer, we got 2 payrolls left, and of course, we got the monthly bills. And depending on how we get hit on payroll, you know, Carl can tell you that, everybody plays catch-up at the end of the year on payroll. So we start paying for days off and, you know, all that stuff,
Sure.
buyback vacation and all that stuff, so we'll have to deal with that. This is a payroll week, so we'll know, what is that, Thanksgiving week, we'll know where we sit. But again, this document needs to be referred for public, you know, observation on Wednesday, and then it lays over until we pass it, final pass it on the 28th, okay? Is it perfect? No. It's a budget, it's an outline, it's the best guesstimate that department heads and we've worked out, okay? All right. Let's see where else I'm at here. Shiloh, I'd like to, oh, I know one thing I would like to say and clarify. On the public defender, I misstated the reason for the increase. The reason for the increase was not, not that we had to pay the public defender 90% of what the state's attorney makes. We have a part-time public defender. The reason being is that it was underfunded, the budget was underfunded the last 2 years. That's why it jumped about 14, 15 grand. Okay? So whoever, whatever, whether it's me and the judges or whatever, we just underfunded it the last year or two. So that's why it's up. Okay? I want to give you clarification on that. As far as Shiloh, the state's attorney and the sheriff have talked and are reviewing the contract with Shiloh. I wanted to clarify, again, in the paper, it makes it sound like we're gonna be paying that person out there $44,000. We don't know whether it's gonna be a full-time person or a part-time person. If it's a part-time person, they will be paid for 178 days out there is what the school wants. And that will, whatever that works out to be, the 44 grand, and I'm just roughly working that out, would, since that is only, what, 2/3 of a year, they would be paid roughly in the 30,000 plus range. And then the rest of the money that we're collecting from the school district would go for other expenses, uniforms, health insurance if they still qualify, and a vehicle, because they're gonna need a vehicle up there. Just to let you know, they'll still be able to respond to emergencies up in the northern end of the county. If there is issues, they'll be able to leave the school. But I wanted to let you know that that's not, the 44,000 is not just salary. That's salary and associated expenses involved with keeping a person in the school as a resource officer. Okay? Does anybody got any questions on that? Did I clarify that for you? Okay.
And the money for that's in the deputy budget line item.
Yeah, it's not in there for this year, no.
How many applicants do you have?
Huh?
How many are you interviewing for the job?
Well, we haven't got any applications yet.
Okay.
And it hasn't actually been advertised
No.
because we don't have
Oh,
an
okay.
agreement.
Okay.
Agreement. Now, I'm not gonna disagree with the sheriff, but I kind of looked at the line item of deputies, and that's why I said it's kind of iffy, that sometimes it's gonna take a while to fill, and while we have filled positions, then there's money accumulating, okay? So, that's how I look at it. I mean,
So when you say 44,000, that's salary?
no,
That's
it is
everything.
not
He said
salary.
everything.
Now, they may be paid roughly that if it's a full-time union employee, but they would only spend 178 days, but they would be reimbursing us for a full year's salary.
Okay.
Hey, you can look at it two different ways,
I'm
okay?
just
I don't wanna get
When you
overly,
said we're gonna need another car, I guess was.
well, yeah, cause they're gonna have to, the sheriff can speak to that,
I
but,
mean, that's not gonna be a big issue.
Okay.
alright? So, just look at that 44 grand is what it costs for us to maintain a deputy at the school district, okay? Or a resource officer, who has to be deputized, has to have full training and, okay? Does that clear that up,
But
just
the
like
school
mine did?
district is refunding a pretty good chunk of that, as I remember.
Right, either way you look at it, we're talking about a 178-day resource officer.
Board members are very appreciative of what we're doing.
We're trying to work it out. It just gets a little complicated. I mean, this is the first one we've done, and Jeff's done a good job of working with Alan at the
No,
school
it's just the
district,
idea of the
so,
way out and do this
okay?
and what can happen. There-
Let's see, what else we got here? Preliminary engineering on the elevators in the, on the agenda. Setting up a line of credit for the airport will be in December. Ambulance service, awareness, letter, ordinance. Oh, another thing Jeff and I are working on is a resolution or ordinance of deputy / jailer levels for this coming year, so that we can show the state our commitment on those issues, okay? I think that's it. I'm sure I missed something. There's some other things on the agenda, but I don't think there's anything of great that should cause you any concern as far as questions, but I might look at that. Okay? Anything else to come before the meeting today, guys?
I would like to go into executive session briefly for personnel.
Okay?
Doesn't take too long.
Anything else that we need to go in exec session on? Okay, I need a motion to go in executive session for the purposes of discussing personnel.
I'll make that motion.
Carl moves. Derek seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will be going into executive session shortly, so if you would